Hello and welcome to the second lesson in Spiral 1. And today we're talking about like and unlike terms. So at the end of this particular lesson, I want you to be able to identify and collect like terms. Now, if we were in a class, regular class, we would, as a class, take some guesses here and talk about what makes a like term. But because this is a video, we're going to do this in the reverse order. What are like terms? So like terms have the exact, that's the important part here, make sure I spell it right, the exact same variables. All right, I'm going to underline exact. All right, so underneath here, I'm just going to extend it so I have a little bit more room. So a review here, just quickly a review. We have, let's say I use 3x squared as my example. 3, that's a coefficient. And in terms of finding like terms, a coefficient, the number in front of a variable, does not matter, plays no role in a like term. This is our variable. All right, so it has to be the exact same variable in order to be a like term. Okay, so an example would be x squared and 2x squared are like terms. 3xy and 1/2 xy are exact, or are like terms because the xy are identical, because the x squareds are identical. So a like term is a term that has the exact same variables. Those numbers out front, you'll notice the 3 and the 1/2 don't even come into play when we're looking at them. So if we go back up to the top part here, which of the following are like terms? So we're going to put all the y's in square boxes. So we look for other terms that have just a plain y. So we find out that the 4y, that is just a straight y. And those are the only two terms that have, are the only two like terms in that case, so 5y and 4y. Now what about the x cubed? You notice I don't say anything about the number in front. The -2 does not matter. We are looking for x cubes. So as we scroll across, here's an x cubed. Are these two like terms? The reason they're not is because of that y. This first term does not have a y, so these cannot be like terms. Moving to the end, there's nothing there. Here's another x cubed, but there's a y, so that can't be a like term. 15x squared. So there are no like terms for the x cubed, so that's going to be the only one that's circled. Now what about the number 8? So we are looking for numbers that have no variables. So as I look through my examples here, everything else has a variable with it, so there are no like terms for number 8. Now I'm going to change color here. So green boxes are for my x terms. I find that the -4x are like terms. They both have x's, and also the 11 is also a like term because it has a variable of x. So they all have just x's. Circles, x cubed y's. So we're looking for a combination, x cubed y's. So we'll find one right here, x cubed y. Now this one's x cubed, but the y is an exponent of 2. So this is not a like term because it is not exactly the same as our x cubed y. All right, moving to the x squareds. So 3x squared. This term has an x squared. And then we're down to our last two terms. They both have x cubed y squareds. So I'll circle them in red. So those are like terms. So the variables must be identical, and that includes exponents. So I'll just add that here. Variables must be identical, including the exponents. All right. So must be identical, and that includes the exponents. All right, let's try some examples then. So combine the like terms in the following expression. So we can put them together. So think of it as I have 3 x's, or say 3 apples, and I get 4 more apples. So all the coefficient out front tells me how many I have. So it just tells me how many do I have. I have 3 and 4, so that means I have a total of 7 x's. All right. The next one, B part. That's a like term with these two. They all have x's. How many do I have? Well, I have negative 12 plus 6. So that gives me negative 6. Take away 4 gives me negative 10x. So those signs tell us add or subtract. All right, so it's telling me what to do with the numbers. So let's try the next one, C. So I have an x squared, so I'm going to go through and find my x squareds. So I have the 5, and I'm going to circle the sign with it. So I have 5 and 4. So if I have 5x squareds, and I find 4 more, that means I'm going to have a total of 9. So I've combined or added the coefficients, but you notice that the variables don't change. We're just asking how many of that particular variable do we have. Next, the y's. I've got plus 3. I have minus 11, and that's it. So I know I'm going to end up with y. How many y's? Well, I have 3. Take away 11. I have negative 8 y's. All right. And the last one I'll just underline. So I have negative 7 x's, and I lose or take away 6 more. So I've lost 6 more. So I know I'm going to have x term, negative 7, take away 6 is negative 13x. All right. All we're doing is identifying the like terms. So if I put steps, we identify like terms. Step 2, we use coefficients to determine how many. All right. So step 1 is identify the like terms. So let's find all the x squared y's. Careful, this one is x squared y squared, so it's not a like term. X squared y, it's the only one. So if it's the only one, nothing changes. Next, I'll circle the x squared y squareds. So there's an x squared y squared. There's an x squared y squared. I have negative 6, and I'm going to lose 5 more, so negative 6 take away 5 is negative 11x squared y squared. Next, let's look at the x cubed y's, and that is my only x cubed y, so nothing changes. I have nothing to combine it with. Now my xy's, so I've got 2 of them there, and I've got 8 there. So that means I have 2 and 8 would give me 10xy's. And then I just have a number at the end. I just have a plus 3. So there we go. We have combined all our like terms. One last example with this topic. So again, let's find all our x squareds. So we have 7x squareds there, and that's it. So if I have 5 and I collect 7 more, I'll have a total of 12x squareds. Now, just x terms. So I have negative 6, I have plus 3, and now I have a third one. I have 8 of them. So I've just got to combine negative 6 plus 3. So we know that gives us negative 3. And then I get 8 more, so I would end up with positive 5x. Then my last set of like terms are just numbers. I have a negative 2, and I have a 7. So if I combine those numbers together, negative 2 plus 7 gives me plus 5. So with the like terms, what we are doing is we are going through and finding all the like terms, identifying them. So we're circling them, putting boxes under them, putting lines under them. And then we use the coefficients to determine how many we have. So we just add or subtract. You'll notice again, I'm going to point this out, the variable does not change. I had x squared, it stays x squared. I had x, it stays x. We're just figuring out how many of each we have in that particular expression. Once you try the homework, if you have any questions, please make sure you ask your teacher for assistance. Good luck.